Worldwide to parse through the crucial moments of the trading day, and definitely statewide, because Tim, you're in San Francisco?
Yeah, we're going coast to coast. We're all over when it comes to the closing bell here this afternoon. You guys know it's like not even 1 o'clock yet here.
Is that
in
weird
California.
for you? Is this like really crazy for you right now?
This seems totally weird for me.
Yeah.
This seems totally weird for me. What I will say is that as far as crucial moments of the trading day go, I kind of thought that investors would be on the sidelines on a day like today, where we're, that 2-day policy meeting from the Fed kicks off tomorrow, and the investors are waiting to hear from Jay Powell on Wednesday. But no, we saw a pretty broad-based rally. It's given up some of its steam, but still, it's pretty broad-based.
It's pretty broad-based. You look at the bond market, it's not providing much clue as to what's going to happen next, right? There's some movement on the short end with 2-year yields moving higher, but everything else is just kind of sitting there unchanged. Not a whole lot of tariff headlines, which I think, at least for journalists, we can be grateful for. It just kind of slows things down a little bit. And we know that April 2nd is still the big day to watch for.
Yeah, and it's interesting also to see small caps performing higher. We have a little bit of a rotation with the biggest mega cap tech stocks falling today, and yet the Russell 2000 up over 1%.
Yep, I've been saying all morning to the equal weighted index, also outperforming the broader S&P. We don't usually see that all the time. Should point out, though, the city still sees a 1.2% move for the S&P on Fed day to the up or downside. That's a little bit more than expected. But for now, we're seeing a rally, though, off the highs of the session. We're still settling out here, but looking at the S&P up by about 0.8%. The Nasdaq underperforming, just up 0.3%. Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 0.8%. And as Emily was just discussing, the Russell 2000 also looks to be settling out up by over 1%, you guys.
Well, you had more than 90% of the stocks in the S&P 500 move higher today. Only 42 stocks moved lower, whereas 459 stocks in the S&P 500 moved higher. A good day for me to be doing gainers and Emily to be doing decliners.
All right, let's give Emily a little bit more time to look for some decliners. I'm going to show you what's happening on the IMAP, and you can see it is a sea of green there. There is some red, and that's mainly the consumer discretionary sector, which encompasses home builders, automakers, and retailers, and the weakness really is in the auto sector. That group is lower, so that's a drag on the consumer discretionary overall. The best performing sectors, real estate, consumer staples, and energy, all up at least 1.5%.
Hey, I want to go to some of the gainers that caught my eye today. There were certainly no shortage to choose from, starting with shares of Intel, higher today by, we can go ahead and round that up, 7%. Intel's incoming CEO, Lip Bhutan, has considered significant changes to its chip manufacturing methods and AI strategies. This is according to a report from Reuters. They cited 2 people familiar with the matter. A few things here includes restructuring the company's approach to AI and staff cuts to address a middle management layer, revamping the company's manufacturing operations. An Intel spokesperson told Reuters that Tan will work closely with the leadership team to position the business for future success, though declined to provide details or make him available for an interview. Shares were up as much as 8.7% today before giving away some of those gains. The stock, though, up close to 30% so far this year. And yes, it is outperforming NVIDIA just this year. Also, shares of Robinhood finished the day higher today. The company unveiled a hub inside its app for retail traders to bet on the likelihood of certain event outcomes. Shares higher by 7% today. This hub launched today, and it's going to facilitate bets for what the upper bound of the federal funds rate will be in May and outcomes of the upcoming March Madness college basketball tournaments. They're doing this through Kalshi, which is a regulated exchange that's drawn formal questioning from the CFTC over how its sports event contracts are in legal compliance. Still, investors setting shares higher.
What Taylor Swift wears at the Super Bowl? Like, is it that kind of thing? Like, how many times she laughs? Like, is it that?
Yeah, I don't know how sort of detailed they're going to get with that stuff. They ran into some problems with this ahead of the Super Bowl last time, and they ended up pulling it from their app. So, but again, now we're in sort of like this different regulatory environment. Plus, I think Kalshi has some involvement. I think Donald Trump Jr. is actually on Kalshi's board now. Oh. So there is some involvement there as well. Finally, this is for Carol because she's not here today. I wanted to do an entire index. It's the Nasdaq Golden Dragon Index.
Good shout out.
It's higher by 4%. Chinese stocks in New York breaking out today. Investors are looking at the nation's plan to boost consumption and mold this AI model released by Baidu. Nasdaq Golden Dragon Index higher today. China did put out guidelines to revive consumption by boosting people's incomes and set out other measures such as stabilizing the stock and real estate markets. Golden Dragon China Index higher by 4% today.
All right, and for those decliners, I did have to look a little bit to find them, but Affirm was a big one. The buy now, pay later company slid as much as 16%, but closing now about 4% lower. And this was on news that rival digital payments company Klarna is set to displace it as the exclusive provider of buy now, pay later loans for Walmart. And it's all coming a few days after Klarna filed publicly for a U.S. IPO in what could be one of the year's biggest financial company listings. Now, these other two companies, I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but Nvidia was down as much as 3% today. Not as much on fundamental news, really, but it is the first day of its much anticipated AI conference for developers, which will be going on for a few days. Tuesday is when CEO Jensen Huang will speak about NVIDIA. Shareholders now, I guess, hoping that he can inject some much needed optimism and momentum into that stock, which again was down, closing about 1.8% today. And then finally, Tesla. We talked about how the indexes were higher. Tech stocks broadly, when you look at the Nasdaq 100, were higher, but Tesla was lower. Again, was there really any fundamental news? Not quite sure, but I'll give you some perspective on this stock because although it was lower today, the shares were up about 8% in the past 5 days. And that stock is up 46% in the past 52 weeks compared to an 11% decrease for the Bloomberg designated peers of this company. So that's just some perspective for you, even though Tesla was lower today.
All right, I'm taking a look at the bond market, guys. It was a weird day, and I'm saying that because the front end couldn't seem to understand which way it was going. So at one point, yields were up 4 to 5 basis points, and then they were down, and then they were flat, and now they're ending up by about 2 basis points. You did have some selling, though, in the back end consistently with yields a little bit lower. Remember, we got those retail sales numbers that missed but weren't terrible, so take that for what it is. And the Empire Manufacturing number that got Scarlett all riled up, down 20. She was very upset about that. So there's that as well.
It's a big negative number.
It's a big negative number, but either way, sort of steady as she goes when it comes to the bond market, you guys.
How about a nice cold can of Stillers? How does that sound to you?
Stillers? Explain.
It sounds either like a Ben Stiller or a beer. What is it?
It's a Ben Stiller. So you've heard of Poppies, or Poppy rather, and Pepsi's going to acquire the soda brand Poppy for nearly $2 billion. Now we're learning that actor and producer Ben Stiller is planning to launch a low-sugar soda named Stillers. This is according to people familiar with knowledge of the matter. He's held talks about raising funds for the venture. The plans are still not finalized, and they could change. But this low-sugar soda is so hot right now.
I don't know. I feel like, can I have a Stiller? Totally works in a bar. Like, I feel like that's actually a really smart marketing
the funny thing is that he's going to star in the advertisements promoting the product. So that alone will make it interesting because anything Ben Stiller's and I don't know. I tend to not be able to look away.
It sounds like
I kind of love.
I feel like
he's having this moment.
I feel like he's riding on, maybe brand familiarity. That it might sound like, oh, I want a Stella. But then you order a Stiller.
Interesting.
There you go.
Confusing or good marketing? Hard to say at that point.
Let me just jump in here because we do have some breaking news. Alphabet is in fresh talks to buy Wiz for $30 billion. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. This is the cybersecurity startup. Again, it is back in discussion talks to acquire this cybersecurity startup. According to the Journal, the stock not moving a whole lot right now in after-hours trade, but we will continue to keep an eye on these developments.
All right, guys, here's a story that caught my eye because we all talk about how much we can quantify AI is actually making. Well, now we can kind of quantify what we, everyday people, are paying for AI products. So apparently, over 35% of Americans reporting using AI-enabled products at least once a week, and many users are actually willing to pay for AI apps, and some paying up to $200 a month for unlimited access to some advanced models, other paying about $10 a month for apps like Midjourney and Canva. But the point is, people are paying and using it.
Why would they do that when ChatGPT has a free version?
I don't know.
Because the subscription version allows you to use it as an agent. So if you want to get a restaurant reservation or book plane tickets, you can actually have ChatGPT do that for you. It's just going to cost you $200 a month.
Yeah, I'm not
cheaper than a butler, right?
Cheaper than a butler. But also, you guys, think about
is.
booking vacations is such a pain. If you had the money and could outsource that, you would totally do that.
But then you have to involve the ChatGPT bot to know your frequent flyer miles and your passwords and all of that.
That's what you're paying for. That's your $200 a month.
I love it. Okay, well, we're going to keep human from here on out, at least according to us for now. But that is going to do it for our cross-platform coverage of the market close on Bloomberg Television, Radio, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place.